welcome to another episode of The Mindalorian, the weekly podcast in which us Star Wars Minute Boys talk about the Disney Plus streaming show The Mandalorian, one episode at a time.
It's us.
I'm Alex Robinson.
I'm Pete the Retailer.
And today we're talking about Chapter 11, which would be Season 2, Episode 3.
9, 10, 11.
If you're keeping score at home.
Yes.
So, what's it called? The Heiress?
The Heiress. Yes.
The Heiress.
Not bankruptcy, as I'm always hoping that anytime something has a Chapter 11, it'll be called bankruptcy. But not really appropriate for this episode. So.
No, it's too bad. They should have worked that in, like had it be a thing about someone being bankrupt in Chapter 11.
Right.
Next time.
At least mentioned it. Or maybe somebody they're watching Wheel of Fortune or something.
Well, anyway, so let's. So last we left our friend the Mandalorian, he and Baby Yoda and Frog Lady were on their way from Tatooine to the planet. What's it called? Trask.
Yeah,
Trask.
Not the the Marvel industrialist.
Yeah, that's right. Bolivar Trask.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one of my notes was that the ship's all busted up, and he's like, we're gonna have to try to So could the Mandalorian armor go through re-entry on its own? Like, say he got thrown out of the ship and plummeted to Earth. Is the armor tougher than spaceship shielding?
That's the armor, question. I think, is, but it doesn't cover everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you would have.
Yeah, we definitely learned that specifically in this episode.
You would have like neck joints and elbows and stuff. That would be. You would come back with like an intact set of armor with a couple of bones in it, probably.
It'd just be like a shell, like a like a hermit crab shell.
Yeah. And my first note was he can't even bungee the trunk. Because we see, like, I know the ship's all busted up, but it goes through and you see the trunk just kind of flapping, and it's like, come on, even like an old
did
Corolla,
at one point, but it broke off, and he just didn't even realize it.
Right? Yeah. People are flagging him down. They're like, your trunk is open.
He's like, I'm not drunk. This is definitely for all the teasing the Falcon gets, this ship is definitely the worst shape of any ship that I can remember seeing. A flyable ship in Star Wars. This has to be the
worst shaped ship.
Yeah. So he also says Dank Ferrick. Has that come up before?
I don't believe so. Suddenly it comes up, a couple of times in this episode, more than once. And it's a weird, that suddenly to try to be able to throw something in there. It's like suddenly they're like, oh, all right. And maybe, maybe it has and we're just missing it. I love the looking up Dank Ferrick on Wikipedia takes you to the page about slang, phrases and slang, and the example that they give is, that's so wizard, Annie. According to Kitster.
I thought that I looked at that section as well, and I think they should have. I was disappointed that half of it was just like army jargon. Like, oh, this is how clone troopers refer to their guns. This is how clone troopers refer to this and that. And I like the more regular things.
This is their rifle and this is their gun. Oh, apparently it's come up. The notation is the citation is for. Dank Ferrick are from Mandalorian Chapter 1 and Chapter 9. So apparently we've heard it before.
Yeah, it never stuck out to me before. It's odd. And now I guess in this episode we hear it at least 3 times. So they're really
maybe that's why they're like, really, we're trying to make this a thing. And not to jump ahead too far, but I think it's the fact that it's like, oh, we've got somebody from Battlestar Galactica on. We better lean into our normalizing slang.
Curses.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what if it was a Tuckerization of something. Dank Ferrick.
Dank Ferrick.
I was like, And my first thing was somebody named Frank Derrick. It seems like that would be, if someone's name was Frank Derrick and you were trying to tuckerize their name. So I Googled Frank Derrick. You never know. Maybe he'll be a sound guy at Skywalker Ranch or something. And there's a bunch of Frank Derricks, but nothing that seemed... there was one, the main character of a novel. So I'm like, oh, maybe Jon Favreau really enjoyed this novel and wanted to... That seems like a bit of a stretch. So who knows?
Right.
If anyone has any inside information as to who is Frank Derrick,
Frank Derrick? My next note is there we go, nice and easy, which is it's a classic kind of I don't know. I'm always a sucker for that. You know, it's just like that totally overdone. You know, like cheap joke. Of like everything's everything's settled and then something horrible happens, but that
crash,
like and the more outrageous it is, the better, Obviously, they weren't going to explode and die here, but I love that. Like there we go, nice and easy, and then the one engine kind of freaks out and the whole thing goes into the water.
I was really shocked at that. I actually gasped out loud when the ship fell in the water because it seemed so like. Unexpected, because you just in the meta sense of like, well, they're standing here and you're not expecting it to suddenly, it was a good gag, and I can't imagine it's easy CGIing all that water splashing and making it. I guess it's probably all done. There's probably like an algorithm behind it, right, where to make the waves behave the way real water does. Wave behave,
that's what it's called. You have to download that software, Wave Behave,
but wavier.
Yeah, I mean it's both. Yes, it's not easy, and yes, there is an algorithm. There's I think people who have spent a lot of time. There's like specialists for each kind of thing. Like for hair and fur and waves and all kinds of all other things. There's like, oh, we'll get the people who did this, I think, or at least get the thing that they used for that. The way that they did that, we'll get that.
And then we also see the all-terrain, the ATAC, the all-terrain armored crane, which I really loved seeing.
Yeah, I wrote at Stevedore, which is great. I love it. And it even had the some authentic sounds. I mean, everything has authentic sounds but
I know I complained that the Imperial Walkers featured prominently in both Rogue One and in The Last Jedi.
Right.
So I was glad that if it's obviously they're putting it here, but they're changing it enough where I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense that would be that was the twist in it.
Right.
I mean, it's clever.
It's with a twist. It's an AT-AT with a twist.
Yeah.
A Walker with a twist. Let me get
James Bond.
Walker straight up with a twist.
So I would love to see someone. I'd like to see one of those things in other settings, other all-terrain armored. With different heads and different like attachments that you could put on it.
Not just specifically a crane. Like,
well, no, like now that they've opened up the idea that you can put basically anything there, I would like to see other things, garbage trucks or things like that. That'd be cool. And the arms reach down and pick up all the garbage and throw it into the top of the.
Or like a wood chipper, like a tree, tree trimmer kind of thing.
Like an Endor, like giant wood chippers. That's what I hope they reveal that one of the first things the New Republic did was like, okay, Endor is going to be we're going to put up a monument to all the people who died. Let's clear all these trees out of here so we can make a big, and then they wind up, totally commercializing Endor. So they finally arrive on Trask.
Yes.
And we meet Mr. Frog.
Mr. Frog, which last week I was saying like I wish we kind of got to meet Mr. Frog, and here he is. So
yeah, there you go. Your wishes were
before
granted.
we meet Mr. Frog, though, I think we see Cable Knit Moncal was my note. I love this.
The seafaring.
Yeah, like that, all right, well, it's a water kind of planet, so here's all the water creatures that we know. And it's a little bit reductive, it's a little bit like, oh, of course, there's a water planet, so we just see some of the water creatures. But like, we know that those two races are often found together because they're from the same planet. And so to have them kind of working together at this dock area makes sense.
Yeah,
and I
should have
like
thrown in a Kit Fisto or two. He's also
is he from there, or he just hangs out there?
Well, he definitely is aquatic wherever he lives.
Right.
But, yeah, I thought that was cool. I liked seeing all the Quarren. I learned also that you're not allowed to call them
squid heads.
You're not allowed to call them that anymore.
In
the Wikipedia, it says that is considered in the slang and phrases sections. It's considered in poor taste. Speaking of tastes, they go to the he goes to try to meet the other Mandalorian in the bar or the restaurant or whatever it is.
He says
the inn. That's right. And I was disappointed that the Quarren don't use their tentacles to pick up food or anything. Like, they were eating and their tentacles were all just hanging limp. And I was like, oh, it seems like such a waste of
I think
of good tentacles.
Earlier on, primitive Quarren did, but
yeah,
now that they're in kind of this modern industrialized society, they have to use their hands.
I guess so. It seems like a step backwards, if you ask me.
Right. Well, I'm sure that there's a movement among the Quarren to kind of get back to using your tentacles, and
some big corporation had to sell them all silverware and made it seem like using your actual tentacles was low class and poor. So
they're all in the pocket of Big Fork.
And so we meet the other titular Mandalorians who show up. Right?
Yes. I had a note in between.
They meet him at the inn.
That I'm sure we've seen this 11 times already or whatever, but this is the first time that I really thought that I don't like that Baby Yoda has white hair. Because Yaddle has kind of luscious locks, and we just assume that Yoda has white hair because he's 900 years old. So
yeah,
I don't like that this baby has white hair.
Maybe it's blonde. Maybe it's just how some babies come out, they're really blonde, and then as they get older, their hair darkens a bit.
Yeah.
So
mine are like that.
Yeah.
All right.
But it does seem. I guess maybe it would be weird to have him have like black hair. Like, it would look weird any other color on him, wouldn't it?
I guess so. Yeah. Or pink, like a fuchsia hair. Well, speaking,
we don't know what color. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So speaking of fuchsia hair, one of the first people that we see who's not a Quarren or a Moncal, kind of spying on them, is WWE superstar Sasha Banks, aka I keep forgetting her real name. It's a good, but it's the pseudo Mandalorian. We'll talk about their affiliations, but Casca Reeves is the character's name, and Sasha Banks under her real name Mercedes Varnado. There you go.
So she was one of the other one of the other Mandalorians.
She's the one that we first see, who's wearing a cloak, kind of spying on them. And then,
so who she is has not been revealed, or that's
no. And then she's with the Night Owls.
Yeah,
as we can assume that these are. I had to do a lot of new canon reading for this episode. But she's Casca Reeves. She's the one of the Night Owls, the one who had the braid that wrapped around her head, kind of.
Right.
And that was Sasha Banks, a.k.a. Mercedes Varnado, or vice versa, Mercedes Varnado, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, who is in. If you like wrestling at all, she's very good. But it's that was a big thing before leading up to this season. That was a big rumored thing, or not rumored, but everybody's like, Sasha Banks is going to be in this season. And I don't remember hearing. Maybe you paid more attention to this. I don't recall. I would just as easily believe that we did or we did not hear that Katie Sackhoff was going to be in this season, and that B, her character Bo-Katan was going to be in this season. Did we know that?
I don't recall hearing it, but it might have been one thing I heard rumors about or something. So I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know how much, and once she said her name, I'm sure there are people who knew who she was once she took off her helmet, or there's probably people who knew who they were once they showed up in armor. I'm sure lots of you listening to this, watching this, you were like, "Oh yeah, oh look, it's the Night Owls," and you got excited. But you know, having somebody who's not yet watched all of or almost any of Clone Wars or Rebels. It took me a minute to be like, okay, I think I've heard that name before, Bo-Katan. And then at the end, I looked up the whole thing and realized that she had a rich history in the Clone Wars cartoon, and then was an important part of this storyline. And I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. On paper, like if I didn't know anything about, if I didn't have access to Wikipedia, I like the way that this all plays out. But knowing that there's a lot more to it that I feel like maybe I'm not missing out on, but there's so much more lore attached to it. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. As long as I can still maintain interest without knowing anything about it, I'm okay.
Yeah, I started getting a little well, first of all, when they showed up, I thought one of them was going to be we're at DEF CON, whatever we're at the Code Orange or whatever I forget what the code, how that system went, but I thought it was going to be I can't remember her name now, the girl bounty hunter from, not bounty hunter, the girl Mandalorian from Rebels.
Right.
The one who paints all her stuff. I thought one of them was going to be her. Yeah. And it wasn't, but it was someone else from Clone Wars or Rebels or I forget, Rebels, I guess.
I think Clone Wars, looking it up. I don't know.
Well, Rebels would have been, time-wise, Rebels was more recent, so that seems like, anyway. But
people are screaming right now listening to this that we don't know all that.
I share your trepidation. Yeah. I share your trepidation because it seems like more and more EU stuff is like creeping in.
See, that's the thing.
So now we have the Darksaber.
It's not technically EU now. It's part of this full canon.
When I say EU, I mean stuff besides what's presented in this TV show and the Star Wars movies.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's safe to assume most of the people watching The Mandalorian have seen all the Star Wars movies, or at least most of them, but might not have. I think more people are watching The Mandalorian than have watched the Clone Wars, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people. Most of the people watching it aren't going to know who. And I was okay. We'll get on. But so yeah, I was starting to get a little bit more like, is this something where some character is going to be revealed, and I'm going to be like, I don't know who that is. Am I going to get Darth Mauled by some other character? So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We shall. We shall see.
So also they go on a boat. He goes on like it's the Quarren ship.
Yeah. Quarren,
and they try to. It's interesting because they attack him, but they're trying to get the armor, not Baby Yoda. They don't even care about Baby Yoda.
Right. Yeah. They just use Baby Yoda as bait.
Yeah.
Essentially, he's bait.
Literally. But I could not think. I can only think of one other time a boat has appeared in a Star Wars film.
Yeah, I was pleased. I was like, oh, we don't really do a lot of on water.
Yeah.
And are you thinking of the Bongo?
No, I'm thinking of the boat that Padme and Anakin. They show them getting out of that boat for 1 second, right when they, it looks like the HR Puffin stuff boat.
Right.
But other than that, I can't think of any other boats.
Yeah, it's good. We need to. I like having stuff on water. It's another good location change.
I guess it does raise the question of why do people still use boats when there's this like hollow like wouldn't a speeder be faster?
Speeder be faster.
But
the bounty hunter. But presumably these boats float. So
I hope so.
So you don't need to always be, it's more energy efficient, I guess, just to not always be like, versus you could just let it float for a little bit, especially if you're fishing. You wouldn't want like a ground effect. You wouldn't want, your engines to be pushing against the water to scare off all the fish. You just want to like kind of float, go with the flow.
Yeah.
That's just my guess.
Yeah. And this is where it's confirmed that his helmet is not airtight because he goes into the water and is clearly struggling to breathe. Yeah. So
we talked about that last week, and I was like, oh, there we go. Asked and answered.
Yeah. Asked and answered. Although whenever Starbuck took off her helmet, it went and made like a sound like like Darth Vader's helmet being taken off. So
maybe that was just maybe it attached to her little headband there.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Maybe that just to keep it more secure in place.
That would make sense. Does Mando have a headband when he took off his thing? Was he wearing a headband?
No, I don't think so. And the other ones don't either. That's just a special thing.
But Django did.
Yes, right?
Sometimes. Maybe. Moving on.
Anyway,
so Starbuck says, yes, we can help take you to.
Before they show up, I guess it is after they show up, but before they talk, I wrote R.I.P. Yoda pod. That pod has been an important part of this whole adventure.
Yeah,
his little floating pod,
right.
Baby Yoda floating in a pod, and there goes the pod.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to see. Maybe he'll build him a new little vehicle, like an MTV7 or something.
He should do like a backpack or something. Make it a real lone wolf and cub type thing, like a Born.
Luke and Yoda.
Exactly.
But yes, then Starbuck shows up and reveals that she is Bo-Katan, and I like and again, this is probably been all kinds of showing up in the cartoons, but like I like the idea of different factions of Mandalorians, even though I contradict myself all the time, and I don't want more of the fantasy stuff, but like I do like that. I do like the plot. I like it when it's plot involved. So I like him showing up and being like, "Oh, wait, they're taking off their helmets. They're not Mandalorians," and then being like, "Dude, you're not the only. Like your people aren't the only Mandalorians." Like I like that kind of universe expansion, world expansion, and then also like having it be kind of a plot thing. And also tied in with,
it. Right.
Yeah.
I also liked it, and I liked seeing it from another perspective because we've been seeing from Jango Fett's not a real Mandalorian, and that Boba Fett's not a real Mandalorian. So does he see them as not real Mandalorians in the same way?
Yeah.
Or does he say, well, they're Mandalorians, they're just a different breed? Or is he just like, they're heretics? I want nothing to do with them. It kind of feels that way. Like he really doesn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
an uneasy alliance.
He's been kind of raised Orthodox in a sense that he doesn't even know.
Right. Yeah.
That he's like, well, how could they be? Yeah. How could they be Mandalorians if they take off their helmets? That doesn't jive with anything I've ever been taught. But other, other sects, other factions are more,
Children of the Watch. That's what his branch is called, the Children of the Watch. So,
don't like it. Sounds too fantasy.
This part is where I started getting a little, and then also we're like, oh, we're going to restore the throne to Mandalore and the rightful. I was like, oh, I don't want this. I don't want
Yeah, I want to put my finger over Starbuck's mouth, be like, don't tell me all the fantasy stuff about how you need the Darksaber to regain the throne. Just shush and let's do more Star Wars and it'll be fine. I love that you're here. Yeah. I like Katie Sackhoff a lot in a lot of things, and I like her as I like her in this, and I like that she's a character that has depth from beforehand. But I do not want the magic sword that reunites the clans to regain the throne. Let's get that out of here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was another thing. Also, Jedi become a much bigger part in this one too, because what?
Have they said Jedi before? Like suddenly he's just like, I don't know, I got to get this guy to more of his kind, and then she's like, well, where are you taking him? And he's like, yeah, I got to get him to meet some Jedi. And it's like, well, did they mention that when the armorer was telling him all about what was going on? Did she say Jedi?
I think she said when I remember him telling the Master Mandalorian that, oh, he has these crazy powers that he can levitate stuff. And then she was like, oh, there's tales of a race of wizards called the Jedi, that he must be one of these Jedis. And then so now you have to find them. Again, very weird that people who have been around, who were children during the Jedi era, have no memory of them whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean,
it's very weird.
But according to what I just read, isn't Bo-Katan basically like Obi-Wan's sister-in-law? Shouldn't she know more about Jedi?
Yeah, that's But and speaking of which, I was surprised when they said oh yeah, that's at the end where she says that it's Ahsoka Tano. So we'll get to that when we get there. Question: can you make a droid out of Beskite?
Sure. Hang on a sec. Oh no, wait. You mean that was just a
okay? While he's doing that, I want to remind everyone. It's like let's make a deal. I'll give $1 to anyone who has a droid made out of Beskite.
Beskar. Is Beskite like an alloy?
Oh, is Beskar? It's called Beskar. Is the metal?
Beskar is the
Okay. Beskite sounds like it should be a metal though.
Maybe is Beskite that's what I'm saying. Is it like an alloy? Or is it a
I'm probably just mixing it up. I'm probably just tuckerizing it.
Maybe it's a kite made out of Beskar. It's an indestructible kite. Yeah,
I will say also I was a little bit. Oh.
I'm assuming you could, but it would. Not that it would be a waste, but nobody
expensive.
Would really do it like that. Yeah, that's so. It's like, you could make a car out of gold, but who's going to do that?
It seems like that would be a good kind of henchman kind of thing to have. Like a Maximilian from the Black Hole.
Right.
Like, oh, here's my bodyguard droid made out of Beskar.
Right.
I was also wary that now this seems to be a kind of I'm catching the theme here now, where every episode he meets someone who tells him, go talk to that person, they'll tell you where to go. Because he went from he went from the armor lady to Amy Sedaris to frog person to now to Boca Raton. And now we're sending him onto another mission. So cat's paw. No, it's not a cat's paw. It's like a detective thing where you're like, I don't know anything about it, but
I've got a lead.
Yeah, exactly. So
apparently the a basilisk war droid. Is this made out of Beskar? No, I don't know. I googled cool. Beskar droid, and that's the first thing that came up was basilisk war droid. I guess what's happening is I need to watch these Rebels and Clone Wars more.
See, but I don't like that. The fact that's the conclusion you get from watching the show.
But listeners will be happy. My detractors will be happy to know that having all this is like I'd say it's 60-40 making me want to watch more versus making me disgusted about the whole thing. So it's not, if it threw too much and it was like, I don't want to watch this garbage. Like, it's entirely, that's within my nature to be like, I don't need all this junk. But it's actually like it's weaving it in enough that I'm intrigued, and I kind of want to watch more of it. So we'll see.
Yeah, fair enough.
I had a note because after he gets rescued by Boca Raton and the Night Owls, who are appearing at
in the Toho Lounge.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, you guys aren't Mandalorians, and just like jetpacks himself out. But then when he's back on the dock, it's like again, I will never fault this Star Wars especially for but a lot of this stuff it dabbles in cliche so much that it's like it's ridiculous to point it out. Seems petty as long as you make it work enough. And like he lands on the dock and one of the Quarren steps out. It's like, you killed my brother. And it's like that's the most cliche kind of like like it's hard to find a more cliche thing going all the way back to like but it works because it's not a major plot point. It's just like, oh, a little bit more peril, and then they show up to save him again to prove that they're not really the enemy. They're not holding it against him. They're just kind of, all right, well, we know that we're going to give you a little time to adjust to the idea that we are also on your side.
Right. Save me once, shame on you. Save me twice, shame on me. Now he has to go along with what they say. So she tells him that the deal is that the Mandalorian has to help them break into this shuttle, this ship, this freighter, and steal a bunch of stuff. And then she'll tell him where the Jedi are. Right.
With not just strictly stealing, it's like with a cause. That they're using these arms to wage war against.
Oh yeah, to free Mandalore to reclaim the throne, and So this they now do. And
yes, and we get to see
surprisingly
Imperial officers. And
yes, who would have thought that they'd still be around? Yeah. So I guess this is one of those little remnant holdouts of the Empire that's still
they're
about. I like that.
They're the ones that Grand Moff Bugging Out are a part of. Like, he's got his own little kind of faction, which is, I think it's literally, they just call them Imperial Remnants, right?
Right. Although I was impressed by how clean the Stormtrooper uniforms were. I thought that at this point they'd all be kind of shop worn, because who's making new Imperial uniforms these days? But
right. Well, but these are these are the guys who go to the water planet, right? So they don't get they get wet. They're moldy, mildewy inside, but the outsides look clean.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
They end up with a lot of rust,
barnacles?
Inside. Structurally, they rust a lot.
Yeah.
That's although it's plastic,
but good.
I don't know.
Yeah. Good to see the Stormtroopers are as effective as ever with their combat strategies.
Yeah.
Which just seem to be pour more and more guys into the room, no matter how many of you get shot, and then
let's shoot them a lot.
There. Why did it take the Imperials so long to come up with the strategy of locking them in between two blast doors? Like, why not? Why do you just keep pouring guys in instead of just shutting the door and saying, okay, now they're stuck in there?
Yeah.
But that's why they lost their empire, I guess. They didn't.
Yeah, they're not. These aren't the a. Not only are these not the. They're not even the best of the best of the. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they're already. The empire was already kind of a little bit wanting in that regard, and then these are the remnants. These aren't even like the best of the best. All died in the battle of. Against the rebellion. These are the leftovers from that.
His best legion was on Endor. They got killed by Ewoks. I really like that idea, and I think they should lean into that by having the Stormtroopers all be like kids, like teenagers.
Oh yeah,
because they're like the only people that they could get. Like at the end of World War II, people defending that were either old people or kids. That would be a neat, bleak social commentary. That.
This
they basically.
I'm disappointed that this unidentified Imperial captain. We get a new Imperial officer. We get actually a couple of them. We get two. There's the guy. Neither of them have names. It seems like. We get a couple. We get the pilots, but then we get actual officers. We get the guy kind of in the cargo hold, who I can't even find a credit for. Excuse me. And then we get the guy in command here, unidentified Imperial captain (parentheses Trask). That's not his name. He is that's the planet that he's associated with, and he's played by Titus Welliver, who we've seen in a million things.
Yeah, he's one of those character actors who you see in a lot of stuff.
Well, he's like a golden age of television all-star. He's starting going back to the first time I remember seeing him is on Lost. He was the Man in Black. But he was also
I remember in Deadwood.
Yeah, he was also on Deadwood, Sons of Anarchy. He had his own show, Bosch, for a while. He's been on like, The Good Wife and all the things that people are like, oh yeah, have you watched that? Like he's in all of those.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. And
he's a prestige TV regular.
Yes, there you go. That's a good description. But he was perfect kind of guy to be an Imperial officer, because when you see him, he's a little bit like, he usually plays kind of a bad guy. He's got a little bit of a an edge, not an edge, but like a you don't trust him when you see him.
Are you okay with Americans? I guess the Jedi kind of. Return of the Jedi was the first time I think we saw American officers, right? Up until then, I think they were all British or dubbed British.
Yeah, I think that's it. Once we stop dubbing them.
Yeah.
Well, I also there was one. I think one of the pilots. He said something, and it sounded like he was trying to do a British accent.
He said, "Blimey, sir."
Yes. Cool. They got us now. No, it
It's a bounty hunter, isn't it?
Oh, it's one of them Mandalorians. There's the guy who looked like a kid. He looked like exactly what we were talking about, like a teenager who was the pilot. And I'm sure he's 30 something, but I think he said something, and I'm like, I don't think he's really British there. I could be wrong, but he said it like something where it was like, it sounded like forced British. It was like, oh, is he just trying to sound Imperial? And that could be, diegetically, he could just be trying to fit in with the Imperial kind of upper class.
I like that.
In trying to, trying to kind of, shift his dialogue a little bit to. I really like the, I like anytime we get Imperial officers talking and doing stuff, and we get to see into their thing. And then he calls up Grand Moff Bugging Out on the phone, and it's like, hey, they're getting us. And he's like, well, they're not going to get us, if you know what I mean. And he's like, all right. And he just shoots his pilots right away, which is an interesting method. I don't know. I guess that's the most efficient thing to do if you're going to crash the ship. But you would think you would want, I don't know, like maybe just be like, hey, we're going to crash. I don't know, like give that, like it would help to have more people in the cockpit with him as we find out, you know what I mean? So maybe that's not the best idea, but I think he probably knows that they wouldn't go for it.
Yeah. Maybe he just always wanted to kill them anyway, and he was just kind of oh, now I finally get to do it. my
sick of getting stuck with
lazy
these guys.
My lazy son-in-law who got this job thanks to me. I finally get to take him out. Well, so his name is Titus Welliver, which sounds like it could almost be a Star Wars name. Do we want to come up with a name for the officer while we're here? Whitus Telliver.
Whitus Telliver. That's not bad, actually.
Yeah. Or do we want to go old school and make it based on one of his lines?
Yeah, one of his lines, or the fact that he bites that like electric cyanide capsule.
Oh yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Like Captain Molars. Captain Molars. For now.
Volteeth.
Well, so we get another. This is as I mentioned earlier in the show. This is where Starbuck says, "All right, I'm gonna tell you where Ahsoka Tano is. That's the Jedi that I'm taking you to is Ahsoka Tano." And
wait, before that, when she's like, "All right, you need to help us get this thing," and he's like, "That wasn't part of the agreement."
Yeah.
And then she says, "Oh, I'm changing," basically like I'm altering the terms of the deal. It's a funny, like, because it's like that's a whole conversation that Boba Fett is privy to. So we see a Mandalorian in the context of this conversation in Empire. And then to have it play out between two Mandalorians is interesting. And I almost thought they were going to go for like a quote, there, but they didn't until she says, he's like, hey, that wasn't, you're changing the bargain, changing the deal. And she's like, yeah, this is the way. And like, I wonder if that was like her people don't say this is the way, right? Is that just what is this? the children of the
watch are the ones who
children
say
of the watch.
Yeah.
Is that to them? So like, is that a specific phrase to their sect? So she's almost like making fun of him, being like, well, like I can't even think of like I'm trying to think of a religious specific, I don't know, like or something that only applies to people, or let's say they were, he was a Trekkie, and they were, and she's trying to convince him to do something. He's like, hey, you're changing the bargain, and she was like, hey, live long and prosper, right? And he was like,
yeah,
okay, or
I guess it'd be like Han Solo. I guess Han Solo like sarcastically saying, "Oh, may the Force be with you."
Right?
Like
yeah,
and he never does say it sarcastically, but.
Right. Well, he says it kind of sheepishly, so maybe it's like
sheepishly, but I think he is I don't think he's trying to bust Luke's balls at that moment. I think
he's trying to be relatively. He's making he's reaching out an olive branch essentially at that point.
Yeah, exactly. A space olive branch.
Yes, a giant pedalic sea grape branch.
Taste the rainbow. Yeah, so we all kind of had heard that Ahsoka Tano was going to appear this season, and now her name is dropped. So they're not going to, it's not going to be like a like reveal. It will be a reveal when she shows up,
if
but
she shows
it's
up.
not like.
You think it's going to be kind of like a Luke in Luke in the Last Jedi? I think spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen the Last Jedi, but a thing where it's Luke in the Force Awakens is kind of a thing where it's she's just going to show up at the very end. It'll be like, there she is.
I don't know, because that would seem to go against the I guess that's what they did with Grand Moff.
Yeah, and the Darksaber.
Breaking Bad.
Grand Moff Gus.
Yeah. I hope. I don't know. I guess I'd rather see her sooner than later, and I'd also not turn into a story about Ahsoka.
Right. Well, yeah. That's what the good things. The way that these work, it's like I said, it's more enticing me to watch these than making me kind of upset that I haven't seen them,
right?
In a sense, and so instead of rolling my eyes, because the story isn't about them, and you can enjoy it without knowing all that, and it doesn't go too deep into it. So, if it, if it works out that way, that it's like, oh, hey, well, they're just going to run into Ahsoka, and she's going to play a part in this story, but everything that you need to know about her will be revealed within the story, and you don't need to
in the context.
Yeah, we're not going to do a story about her. She's just going to help our plot move along, which I'm assuming that they'll do. So now I'm thinking maybe they'll have it. Basically, the I'm speculating again. Much like season 1, the end of season 2 will be like essentially a 2-parter finale. So what are we, 3 in? So we've got 5 more. So at some point in the next 3 episodes, we have to get the gang back together, right? So maybe
the gang will be justified.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about the new gang. I was talking about the old gang. I was talking about getting.
No, I feel like the new gang too. I feel like.
Oh, all right. All right, he could be a part of the gang. I don't think the frog people would want to be a part of the gang,
no.
but yeah, maybe.
Although I could see them pulling a surprise or something, like how they showed her rewire that droid or something.
Right.
I could see them they're like, who could have done that? And then you're like, oh, it's the frog couple, and then you have a bunch of little frogs with them. Baby Yoda would eat them.
I really did think he was gonna again. They did you see all the hubbub in the past week? There's been a lot of hubbub about the Baby Yoda eating the eggs. That people were horrified by it. Yeah, they were upset by it. And then
why?
They even had to like I think Favreau or somebody else was just like, hey, that was just supposed to be funny that he was eating them, and people were like, I saw like a think piece about like apparently they thought that was supposed to be funny, but it was horrific, and I was like, really? I don't know.
Why was it horrific? Because
I mean he's essentially eating her children, but they're not fertilized eggs, as we said.
Yeah.
They're it's like eating it's like if you brought a chicken and you were eating the chicken's eggs.
Yeah.
But
I guess if I was sitting down with a chicken, I would feel self-conscious about eating chicken eggs. If I was sitting down with a chicken, I'd be kind of like, but
But it all works out because they we see at least one of them hatches. Do you think that whole thing was just to get one? Was that the whole deal? Like, there's just one offspring comes out of this whole predicament?
It's an interesting speculation into their biology. I mean, I guess normally frogs and stuff lay 1 million eggs because most of them aren't going to survive to adulthood.
Yeah, that's another thing. They probably lay a lot of eggs figuring some of them are going to get eaten. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe the ones that they don't fertilize, they eat themselves. They cook them up.
Could be.
Yeah.
But even once it was hatched, I was worried he was going to eat it, and I think they were playing on that too. That they were like having him kind of sitting there playing it. I think I take it as partially he's, being as incredibly force sensitive as we assume he is. He's attracted to life forces. Not to get too woo woo fantasy about it, but like he's interested in them because they are he can sense that they are life forms.
You can feel the force flowing around.
Exactly. Right. And so
they did. If you recall last week, they did what I thought was a little alien shout out with those eggs. The eggs with the creatures and the spider eggs.
Yeah.
And in this one, they have a creature land on top of.
Oh yeah.
They have that thing go on Yoda's face, just like the face hugger. It seemed like a continuation of that.
Which again leads to a little joke.
And then
don't play with your food.
Yeah, and in the end, there was that other baby Rathtar that showed up there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be That's not supposed to be a Rathtar, is it? It was just supposed to be some other kind of creature like that.
It looked more like a starfish, more so than a round ball, the way a Rathtar is.
Right.
But and my last note is that he should get a new ship because that's just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, in its current state.
I know you have a quest to yeah, I mean, I know you have a quest to go return Baby Yoda, but surely you can take one side job to get enough money to buy a ship, and then
You think that'll factor into it? No, but well, here two elements here. So maybe the Razor Crest will either, by the end of this season, it will either be destroyed or be completely refurbished.
Right.
Because I think they're not, they just started selling Razor Crest toys, so they're not going to totally ditch it right away.
Yeah, that's what I figured also, that it's too much of a iconic thing at this point for them to...
Right. Although I do like that they keep, I can't wait till they come out with battle damage Razor Crest that you can, put... nets and strings and bungee the trunk shut.
It'd be a good Lego set because then you could make it as broken as you wanted to. You could just literally just have a chassis with the rockets on it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good. I don't know. I like that it's doing a good show overall. It's doing a good job of balancing, arc with individual. Ongoing story with individual tales, so it's like I was, once again, completely satisfied by this episode, but it doesn't completely reset. You have continuity from one to another, so you're drawn in, but each one does, you can just watch it kind of on its own. My wife is not caught up. She has, I think we have 3 episodes of season 1 that she hasn't seen yet. And so I was talking with my in-laws about the new episodes, and she was like, "Well, can I just skip ahead?" And I was like, almost, kind of. I think it doesn't really matter. It's standalone
so far, there hasn't
enough.
been anything.
Yeah, other than some of the stuff that was mentioned in this episode, you would want to know about from the end of last season.
And there's certainly nothing you couldn't catch her up with a few sentences. Well, there was this guy with a black lightsaber.
But
Yoda.
Yeah, no, I told her no. We've got to finish it because I kind of want to go back and rewatch them anyway. So,
yeah.
But
so what did you think of this episode? What did you rate this one?
It's another strong episode. I thought I'm really enjoying this season quite a bit. I think they're doing. Remember some of the complaints that we had about last season were that it was a lot of filler between tent poles, and this doesn't seem to be filler. It's just kind of they're still, like I just said, they're still kind of standalone enough, but also stringing along a plot of sorts. And who knows? Now that we're done with that kind of first arc, maybe we'll have a filler episode or two. But even the filler, essentially one of some of the filler episodes were some of my favorites, but also some of the filler episodes were some of my least favorites from last season. So
hit or miss, fillers hit or miss.
So far, I'm these are all above average, which obviously everything can't be above average because then there is no average. But I think these are all strong episodes so far, and I don't know if I like this one as much as the other two, but I liked it a lot. Still,
I liked it a lot too. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I can't remember. I don't want to pit them against each other right away, but
you have to. It's the nature of the business.
I'm still enjoying them, and I'm anxious, excited for the next one, which is the goal of this show, to make me. I enjoy that, and I'm excited for the next one. That's all. This
best you can hope for.
Episode accomplished its goal.
Quest completed. So where will we see James Bond next?
Well, next week is Chapter 12, Season 2, Episode 4, right? Do we know what the...
Yes.
Sometimes they leak the title beforehand, so you know.
Right.
No, we just see that it's Chapter 12. So we didn't mention that this one was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, which was an interesting... I like not knowing beforehand. I like seeing at the end, like, oh, that's who did that.
Did she do this episode in the first season? I think she might have done our least favorite one from last season.
Yeah, she did. She did Sanctuary,
which is good because that means, yeah,
and so it's
an upward climb.
I'm glad that wasn't. I'm glad that wasn't her. She can redeem herself a bit with it. It wasn't indicative of her talents, which I didn't think it was. But I was, and again, a lot of it's writing and everything else. But I was happy to see that this one. Oh, I really enjoyed that one, and it was Bryce Dallas Howard, which is good. So, was there anything else that we're missing? We had somebody officially credited as deck officer, so that's a plus.
Deck officer?
Kevin Dorff, who's apparently a comedy actor in a bunch of stuff that we're familiar with, and so he was the. I wonder if he was the guy who locked them in the cargo hold. I don't know. All I saw was a credit for deck officer, so I'm not sure.
Deck officer. Well, all right then. I guess that'll wrap up this episode, the Heiress, which we both seem to like. So strong season so far.
Wench. What?
And thank you, listeners, for listening or even watching us do this. And we'll be back next week with another brand new Mindalorian.
The Mindalorian.